Hello, in today's lesson we'll be taking a quick look over the formulation section of Receta. I'll explain how that works in conjunction with the ingredient side of things, how you can produce a full mix which you would then use in further productions, how you can add methods to it, and how to edit it in the future. Let's get started. If we go to Production, Formulas and Add, we'll be taken to the page where we can add a brand new formula to the system. Now this formula would be the mix that you would produce of all the materials, the ingredients together, in order for that mix to then be encapsulated in a capsule or tablet. First of all, it's asking us to enter the name of the formula. I'm going to call this demo formula. As you can see, as I'm typing, it's already found another demo formula. If I select that, I get a warning to say, are you sure you wish to call your new recipe this? And basically it's telling me I should rename it to something else to avoid confusion. I'll call it demo formula 2. You might name yours something a lot more specific than that. We then are asked to choose if this is a capsule, tablet or container. If we choose a tablet or container, we would enter the maximum amount of milligrams that we wanted for this tablet to contain. 500, 600, etc. If I leave this on 500, as you can see, this is updating at the same time I'm typing this. And this is going to be a graphical representation of what my capsule or tablet is going to look like in terms of how full it is. If I, however, had selected capsule, I would now be asked to type in the name of a capsule shell. Now there's only one on file, demo capsule shell, but as you can see it auto-selected it for me when I typed demo, and it's automatically updated this area with the milligrams, maximum milligrams that this capsule shell will take based upon the settings I put in against this capsule shell when I first added it. Let's leave it on this capsule shell. If we now look down here, we can see a list of all of the ingredients that we have in Receta. In our case there's only 3, but in your case there may be tens or hundreds of different ingredients. And obviously you can filter these by typing here the name, and you can see there I've started typing the ingredient and it's knocked the other two out of the way. Or I could even type the reference number 0010 for example, or 0049, whatever I choose, and it would come up with the right answer for me. We can also see some other pertinent information on this side of things before we add it into our capsule. We can see the purity level, we can see the stock level, the recommended level, the minimum order level, and the last price we had for this ingredient. If this material has been linked to other ingredients, so we could make a better choice as to the best one to use, we could also see buttons here for that. In our case we want to add all 3 as an example, so I will click, what's happened here? This material does not have a price. Please have this material price checked before proceeding. What that's telling me is this particular ingredient, which was this one here, there is no price against it, so are we sure that this material isn't going to cost us any money? If I add this one again, I should get the same one, which I do, because this one again hasn't got a price. Just a warning to stop you going further with something that you shouldn't. Now, as you can see, I click the add buttons there, and they've added them into what I would call our capsule or tablet basket. Here we can add the amount of milligrams we would like in our capsule shell. So for this one, I would like 10 milligrams. Now, because this is an extract, what you can see is that we are going to enter 10 milligrams. The actual amount we will put in will be 10 milligrams, but we will be able to make a claim on the equivalent amount of 40 milligrams because of its extract ratio. In the case of this ingredient, I know I need 50 milligrams of the active amount of whatever this particular material carries. However, because it's got a purity level of only 50%, the actual amount I will put in will be 100 milligrams, which again will be equivalent to 100 milligrams because it isn't an extract. In this case, this is a very straightforward 100% pure standard ingredient. I'd want 100 milligrams again. So if we quickly look, we've got 100 milligrams, 100 milligrams, and 40 milligrams. And if we look further up, we can see there that, sorry, not 40, 10 milligrams. We can see there that we've got 210 milligrams of a 600 milligram capsule. We might want to now calculate how much of a filler or lubricant we would want, as this is a capsule shell and may need lubricant in order to pass through our machines. By clicking this button, it automatically calculates the maximum amount of filler and the maximum amount of lubricant with a 5% threshold that we would need to put in. We can use that and decide which filler, brown rice for example, we would put in, and or which lubricant, mag stearate in all probability. Before we go ahead and store this formula, we can quickly use this button here. which would find us if there were any existing formulas which also use all three of these materials. May not necessarily be in the same milligram rating, but did use all of these. And what that would do is give you alternatives to this particular formula and an opportunity to go back to your customer and explain that you already have an existing formula on file which is similar and maybe more beneficial for them to use. Finally, in here you can see there are some basic costings associated with this capsule. If we wished, we could enter an amount here which would be the likely amount of capsules or tablets we'd make on our first run, and it would give us some basic costings. None of this is required, it's just there to give you an idea of the likely cost implications for making this, just in case you wanted to cover yourself financially. Finally, if we have a recommended amount of stock we wanted to carry of this particular mix, if we weren't going to ever encapsulate it, you could enter it here. In all probability that in most cases would be 0. If this was a customer exclusive formula and you wanted that to be shown within Receta so that other customers didn't get offered this, you could type their name in here and select them. If we already know in advance if there are any specific requirements that this formula may have from a production point of view, you'd enter them here. And if we wanted on the documentation for this formula to show this particular formula as being EU approved, we would select yes here. That can be overridden by the specific materials within the formula if any of those are not EU approved. Also, that would have a bearing on the information shown on the specification sheet. We're happy with all of that, so I'm going to save that to the system. And it tells me that what it will do is it will create a brand new REC, which will be the finished mix. It will also create a brand new FP linked to that REC, which would be X amount of milligrams of our mix in the outer shell of a capsule or tablet. I'll confirm that. It takes me to a brand new page to say that that has actually been done, and straight away I can do one of three things. I can click finish, which would finish the job off, and I can now move on to another task, or I can do two very important things. One is I can look at the product formulation sheet, which if I click loads up an automatic sheet based upon the information I've just put into Receta. So we can see here straight away the date it was issued, the new code it's given it, our business details. We can see that the colour it's given it is light blue, and now that will be because the capsule shell that we've put in has been given a denomination of light blue. We can see the size, if that exists. We can also see here the reference numbers for all the items. We can see what's in it. We can see the amount of milligrams. If it has any of these materials have an excipient code, those will be automatically shown there. And we can also see it does some calculations to show your customers what each one of these materials can be shown as actually providing. So in this case, because this is an extract, it's automatically shown us that that's the equivalent of 40 milligrams. And because this has a purity level, which we know about, even though we're putting 100 in, it's only providing 50. Below we can see some average weights which your production staff can use for when they're producing it, and these are automatically calculated. Then we can see some general terms and conditions, and if you wish you can get your customer to sign the documentation to say they approve formulation. Close that down. The next thing is something called the formulation method. A method in Receta is very simply a series of steps that you need your production staff to go through every single time that they make a particular product. And what you can do is you can set it at the first time you make a formula, and every single time your production staff make it, they will click each step to say they've completed it in turn to your standard. What this does is ensures that you have a consistency of capsule production every single time this particular formula is made. Let's do that now. It's asking me now to complete the method for this formula. Again, you can spend time reading this, but effectively what I need to do now is create the steps. Now generally what I'd want to do is weigh out each of the ingredients first. So the first step I'll do is I'll say I want to weigh and pick a material. What it now does is it asks me which material I want to weigh first, and it puts it in the order of the most heaviest in that particular one. So 47% of this particular formula is demo ingredient 1. So we'll get that out first. I'll do the same again, demo material 2, and the same again for demo material 3. Now, when I click to produce my next step, you'll see that the weigh pick material step has disappeared because it knows I have got out every single one of the ingredients I need. I could now elect to do a time step, for example, where I could say I wanted the mixer to run for 5 minutes or 20 minutes, etc. I could add a miscellaneous step if there was anything about these particular ingredients I needed my staff to be aware of. Or I could say job completion validation, which is essentially the last step. I'm going to do that now. So there is my method. I want my staff to weigh weigh, complete it, mix it, and then say it's done. I'll store that method now. What I'm now finally taken to is the formulation detail page. This identifies everything I've previously put into the item, including what it's weighed in, is it EU approved, obviously it's never been modified so it doesn't have a modified date. Critically, it shows me the cost per kilo, which is all of the ingredients plus the capsule shell if that has a cost. It shows me the ingredients that are in it. Again, I can link and open up my product formulation sheet if I wish. I can go straight through to the FP, which I'll show you in a short while. I can see if any of these materials are bought from a particular supplier or suppliers, those will be linked straight through here. If I have a density checking machine in my premises, I can upload the results here. I can add specification notes. I can see the overall stock level, and I can see the method, which I've already previously described. Two more things which may be of interest. Receta by default will operate an approval process whereby any formula will not allow to be put into production until it has been approved by at least 2 members of staff, in some cases 1 external. When that staff has looked over the formula and you're happy that the formula is okay to go, they would click edit, click the date that they're accepting it, and it would be stored. It would only be until both of these had an approval date could this formulation be put into production. One other minor point, if you quickly wanted to make another copy of this formula for editing purposes or a different variation, you could click that button and it would do exactly as it says. Now, on the back of this particular formula, we can also look at the generated FP, which would have been produced at the same time. If you remember, the FP is just the recipe, the formula, in its encapsulated form. So we have the rec, which I'll just show you again, which is the recipe itself. Now we have the FP, or the capsule, which is the recipe, an element of the recipe within the capsule shell. So here we can see that we've got 30,000 in it. It costs us that much per capsule, £1 for 1,000 capsules. You can see things like pin settings, stock levels, etc. I won't go into this in too much detail because there is another video which you can view all about capsules and tablets, and that hopefully have more information for you. If we quickly went into formulas and find, just so we can see, here we can see on the find page the different formulas that we have stored. We can see which FP they are linked to, and we can see the check level status against them. That completes the formulation tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please look out in the help section for more tutorials to guide you through Receta. Thank you.